racism, hatred, suffering, humanity, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Is there a cure for suffering? Look around. Even businesses say we have a solution, we have a cure for the thing that's causing your suffering. But in this instance, what is going on? What is business saying? What is government saying? What are the people saying? Hi, I'm Jen Joseph from Envisage Executive Coaching. Here, trying my bit to release your confidence. So we all want justice, but how do we get justice? What does justice measure? Well, when we look at it, justice is there to determine whether something has gone contrary to the agreed code, the law, the ethical standards set by society. So that's what justice does. It measures that, and then justice says this is the penalty, the fair and equal penalty for the thing that has been done wrong. Sometimes justice will even look at reparation. In this case, where we're looking at lives, can justice measure and punish a person's moral code? Can ethics determine whether an individually held moral code be punished by the group norm, the socially acceptable contracted norms? Is that possible? Can we say that because we have these rules in place, a person who thinks contrary to those rules, behaves contrary to those rules, let me take behavior out, thinks contrary to those rules, has an attitude contrary to those rules, is outside of our social standards? But if your thinking and your attitude influences your behavior, should justice be blind in its measurement and determination of what has gone wrong? Black lives matter. All lives matter. But the thing with black lives that we can see here is that it's basically a deprivation of that life. A person's moral code is not the same as society's ethical code. When it comes to racism, a person of color cannot hide. When it comes to sexism, a woman cannot hide. But here's the difference. When women are fighting the agenda to be heard, it is just that, an agenda to be heard and seen and respected. When it comes to racism, the agenda is the right to live, the right not to suffer the deprivation of that life. It is a totally different agenda. It may be the same platforms in terms of a fight for equality. When we look carefully, whether you have a voice cannot stand against whether you have a life. It cannot. So right now, all the women's rights advocates should not be jumping on this particular bandwagon. The argument is not the same. Yes, we're looking at moral standards, and yes, we're looking at the measurement of that moral standard against an ethical code, but a life against a voice has a totally different weighting. So what is going on with these moral codes? You know, Viktor Frankl of Man's Search for Meaning, when he wrote about his experience in the concentration camps. He told us that people who formerly held perverse ideas about the treatment of other human beings would often be placed in positions of authority. And even though they were all in the same boat, prisoners, those who had adverse beliefs, those who were sociopaths and psychopaths, even though they were prisoners, they would still impose pain on their fellow prisoners. Do we have the same mindset today with those who are termed white supremacists? Is that what's going on? When we look at it, how can one man believe, how can one man have entertained the thought that it is okay to literally choke the life out of another person, to beat the life out of another person? There isn't a battle to say, I'm afraid for my life, I'm fighting for my life. No, there isn't that going on. All we see is that an individual is saying, I have the right to deprive you of your life. This last case with George Floyd was the straw that broke a camel's back. It was a stretch too far. Enough was enough. And so we have protestation. Now, the beautiful thing about protesting is this. As a group of people go out to protest, others who are cowering in the background can see there is someone else that thinks like me. There is someone else who has the same code as myself. And so they can stand up, stand out, and voice that opinion. Now, the wonderful thing about a gathering in protestation is this, and all those who are into manifestation understand this principle. Where two or three are gathered together, there is power, there is a movement, and there will be, as long as they are in court, there will be a manifestation of that which they desire. In this case, what do they desire? That is the question we need to ask. Also, what is the pain that they have experienced? Because each one will have experienced something personal, but there will be some correlation for there to have been a process of this magnitude. That correlation says, this is a stretch too far. You have offended the socially accepted ethical code. Not only is your moral code off the charts, it no longer has a north, but the ethical code, the behavior that we've all contracted to, has been shredded by you. How do you expect other people to honor you? How do you expect other people to even honor the accepted ethical code of society? And so we have protest. So what's going on in the protest? What is going on? Let's go back a bit. For people of colour, there is a belief that the village raises the child. The village instills the code of conduct in the child. The village helps the child to negotiate the moral codes that he or she wishes to live by. That's for many people of colour. Now, over time, we have had a Western code that says to succeed, you put yourself first, me first, greed. You try to accumulate wealth, and that identifies who you are. Notice where the identity is. It's in an external substance. And then you have an Eastern code that says each man has his place. I will stand on your shoulders. Somebody else will stand on my shoulders, but you cannot move from your position. You were born lowly, you will stay lowly. Here's the thing though, you will never find a person of color who says, I evolved from an ape. I am a subspecies. People of color will say, I was created whole, human. I will grow as a human. I will die as a human. But those who wish to deprive the human of his life says your worth, your value is clay and mineral, and that's where I'm going to place you, back into the ground. You have no right to be, because your being takes away my identity. Your being takes away my substance. Your being has no right to substance. You are subhuman. So then we see this is not about the right to have a seat at a table of the decision makers. This is not about a right to have material wealth. This is about the right to life, to live out one's purpose, to add to the value of this world, to make a better world for those who are coming behind us. This is about just being and being able to be. You see, the issue as I looked at it is this. No matter what has happened to people of colour, we've still strived. We've still succeeded in living. We are able to be happy in all circumstances. In everything we give thanks. It's only when our minds have been coloured, have been twisted, distorted by the thinking of another paradigm, do we see the misdemeanors that we see. When that person has been told you have no value, you have no place in this world, then we see misdemeanors and we think, what is going on? These people do not deserve to be. But who has the right to say that? Who has the right to condone another person's life to the dust of the ground? Human value and intellect have long been confused as meaning the same thing. And if you were ever to listen to people of colour, you would see that intellectually there is a level of artistry in thinking, in use of emotions that most don't get, because we're able to use our imagination to live way beyond the things that we see, touch, smell and sense. If you look at the art of the ancestors, you find incredible artwork that defies the modern man in its architecture, in its composition. Who is to say that because another person's skin is brown, that he is nothing? Put anybody, any racial subsection of humanity in the sun, their skin will become brown. There are variations of shades, by all means, yes, but their skins will become brown. And in fact, the defining feature between what we call a Negro and a Caucasian is merely a matter of narrowness of features or flatness of features, degree of straightness of hair at one extreme and degree of curliness at the other extreme. But in between, we're all the same. That has nothing to do with intelligence, whether mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. But the one thing you'll find with people of colour is that we do survive. We do thrive. When you look at America, immediately after slavery, black people were ostracized. They were pushed away. Their lands that they were entitled to were stolen from them, but still they thrived, and it wasn't tolerated. How dare they thrive? Just as in Germany with the Jewish nations, the Aryans, they looked at the Jews and they said they're controlling the economy, they have all the money, they have all the gold, and how dare they thrive? And their solution was the same: deprive them of life. So this comes down to, as I see it, a need to curtail the progress of the subsection of our humanity. And I'm reminded of a story by Douglas Adams in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where a world decided they would get rid of all of the cleaners and the hospitality folks and send them off on a ship, saying that the world was coming to an end and that was the ship that was for them. Only after they sent this ship off into the middle of nowhere, the people who were left behind, the rich, the wealthy, the fashionistas, they died because there were no hygienists around. And this aircraft, it crashed and created the new world, Earth actually. Douglas Adam has an amazing imagination. But honestly, if people are determined to get rid of those who have naturally retained the pigmentation through the melanin in their skin, if they're determined to get rid of those people and their inbuilt talents, what will happen to this world? What will this world become without us? So, the protest has started. The village has spoken. Those with the ideas of supremacy cannot thrive. So the village, in speaking, is calling to the elders council. In this instance, perhaps the elders are the governments, the big businesses, and they're turning to them to say, where is the wisdom? We are repenting because we have stood by and allowed things to happen. Now we need you to repent of not exercising your wisdom and to ensure that that wisdom is spoken now to the agreement of everyone. And we're looking to the media to say, you are the ones who are going to carry the decisions of the elders. You are the ones who are going to tell the nations, this is how life goes. We've been asking this question about the new normal. What should the new normal be? As yet, no one has really defined it. I mean, they've shaken up the old norm and tried to rejiggle it, but it's still the old. The new norm has to be about respecting all of humanity, has to be about true integrity, has to be about true authenticity. It has to be a synchronicity between thought and mind. There's a saying that goes, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. What is your mouth saying? What is your heart hiding? Black Lives Matter. This is Jen Joseph from Envisage Executive Coaching, releasing your confidence. Bye for now.